really good. You know, and let's just say that the key provision in it, kind of when you read it, it kind of looked like it said X, but he really thought it meant not X. And if you read it a certain way and you stood on your hand and you know, like you could see where the mistake was made, but they just weren't careful enough, right? And it turned out to be a big problem.
One more interjection. They said one thing here that's so important, and I've dealt with lawyers my whole damn career with Turner. If the lawyer can't explain it to you in words that you understand, you need another lawyer. That lawyer has got to be able to explain what the hell you're signing and what the implications and what the meaning are in words that you understand. It's the same as when you deal with the goddamn doctors in the hospital that give you a great explanation what your problem is with 42 syllables in each word. I really wonder whether the doctor knows. You gotta be able to understand it.
Do you want to talk about litigating?
Sure. So look, I'll start off, I think this first bullet here. You know, we're an advocate and a counselor, and part of being a counselor, right? So look, I'm a trial lawyer. I love trials. They're great. Rarely is it in someone's best interest to initiate litigation and see it all the way through a trial. It is rarely, sometimes it is, it's rarely the case that it is. And a good lawyer, even a good litigator, is going to sit down with you if there's some kind of a dispute that arises. We're going to have many conversations about off-ramps and not going down an actual litigation path. Litigation costs a lot of money. It damages personal relationships. It's, you know, depending on what kind of, you know, one of the examples of a good idea to settle a case that I put down here. You know, I had this client, was two guys who had founded an LLC, and they were in a dispute with another company that they had 20 years of history with. They went on family vacations together. And the prospect of this litigation continuing on and on and on, it was for millions of dollars, was actually ripping people apart. And you know, the question you have to ask yourself sometimes is it worth it, right? And a good lawyer is going to have that conversation with you, and it's not just going to be about trying to pump hours.
What do you mean by pump hours?
Yeah, so depending on, so lawyers, there are two basic ways litigators get paid for their time. One is an hourly rate, right? I worked 100 hours on your case. 100 hours times my rate is the bill that you pay. The other is a contingency case where he's like, look, I'm not going to take any money from you up front, but we're suing someone for $5 million. I'm going to take a third of that if we get it. Often it's in the hourly rate context where you've got lawyers who the incentives aren't aligned with yours, right? I mean, they're just not. My incentive is to spend as much time as possible to run my bill, whether it's in your best interest, whether, you know, there's a million motions a litigator can file. There are a million arguments I could have with opposing counsel, just, you know, and you've got different lawyers with different attitudes, not always just out for money, but, you know, a good lawyer is going to, again, it's taking every single step, like, what is best for my client? And often it's not filing these 20 motions that, you know, maybe I could win them all, but did that actually advance your interest? Did it advance the resolution of a case?
So how often do you find people do stupid lawsuits because they're mad?
Threatened or actual? I mean, look,
I've seen both.
Yeah, I've seen both too. Look, it happens more often than not. I mean, I often end up on the phone with someone who is very mad. Yeah. And or they know someone who's very mad, and you know, they just haven't had someone to talk through, like, okay, here's the reality. Like, you totally got screwed. This is terrible. Here's what has to happen now in order for me to achieve the results you want. How can we? There's a vast gray area in between just letting yourself be rolled over or going to court. But yeah, I mean, look, I get my business when people are upset, right? So it's kind of it's not a fun conversation to have, but you know, the hope is that you know, you help someone along the way.
I've got a question. I don't know if I remember right way, but I think back in the 90s, that's when people went out and they sued for anything.
Mm-hmm.
It was out of control in this country.
Mm-hmm.
How did they figure out how to stop doing that so bad? Because it was like nonstop.
So like the McDonald's, like the hot cup of coffee and all that.
Yeah. They figured out how to stop it when they beat normal people in this country, or did it get worse?
I don't think it's
Asking the trial lawyers, you're asking the guy who loves it.
So I think there is less of that today, and I think look, there's plenty of it that goes on, right? I think that there are just fewer lawyers who, like the McDonald's lawyer, like that was on a contingency basis. They see big dollars, so I'm going to sue McDonald's, and we're going to win $100 million, and I got a cakewalk here. It's hard to do that as a lawyer anyway. I mean, look, at our firm, we don't really do a lot of contingency cases because otherwise, then Mike is basically floating me for the 2 years it takes to try a case.
That's a longer conversation.
Things in general, though, it's slow. It's not as bad as it was in the 90s, right? It seems like nonstop.
I think there's been a lot of legal rulings that have tightened up what someone needs to do in order to advance a lawsuit. You can file something, right? But that doesn't mean a whole lot. So the law has tightened up a little bit, but
I had so many episodes on Seinfeld.
Right.
yes, yeah.
But we find ourselves more than you think telling people, like, look, again, I know you're mad, but you can either be mad and have some money, or you can be mad and light some money on fire, right? Like that's kind of where you are, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, in a real business dispute, right? If you're looking at, in a good case, 2 years from the day you call me to the day we might get a jury award. That's a long time, right? It's a lot of money that gets spent over that time. It might be worth it to you. If you've got a $1,000 dispute, it's probably not the kind of timeline you're looking at and the kind of thing you want to do. So.
Want to talk about discovery?
Yeah, that's another good one. So here's the other thing.
Just kind of add, because it's not just the money, right? It's like an emotional toll. If
Yeah,
someone like
absolutely.
wronged you,
Yep.
and you're like living in it for years.
Yeah.
Instead of just like, okay,
Yeah.
this happened, right?
Yep.
I mean, there is an emotional toll.
Yeah.
And a good lawyer will tell you that. Like, look, let's imagine that your expected result is it's roughly kind of even, right? Like you're going to spend some money and you'll probably get a little bit more than you spent.
Or the principle is really important, and I just need to whatever.
Right,
Yeah.
but do you want to spend the next few years not actually running your business, but like talking to Steve all day?
Yeah, and this segues very nicely into the discovery point, right? Which is litigation it's painful. It's painful for everyone involved. Every email you've ever written that's relevant to this dispute is getting produced to the other side. Every text, every social media post, like this is the way. It's an open book in a lot of ways, and
just as part of any trial, each side has to exchange information with the other. It's called discovery, and so this is what he means when he says your emails and your texts. Like the other side gets to look at,
and you get the other sides, but I think we've all fired off emails or texts that we wish we hadn't, and often you do it when you're mad, and when you're mad, sometimes lawsuits are because of a lawsuit or potential lawsuit. So, being able to take a beat before hitting send is just generally good advice. But in particular, when it comes to your business, and in particular when it comes to something that is going to be a dispute, I mean, look, part of it. So, as litigation moves forward, one of the worst things that an individual will go through is a deposition. Deposition is terrible. It's 8 hours in a chair, camera facing you, and an annoying lawyer asking you questions that don't have to really follow a lot of form, because they're trying in a lot of cases to get a soundbite out of you, and it's really hard to stay on edge, and guard against it. And where you're part of what lawyers preparing to take a deposition and preparing their own people to be deposed, you're looking for the documents where someone said something they really shouldn't have, or something they wish they didn't say, or whatever else. And that's why we say be careful with what you write, because my job, and if I'm taking your deposition, is not to be fair to you, and that's just and it's just that's part of the ugliness of litigation.
Well, and I think, look, there are a lot of bad things about being a lawyer, but one good thing about being a lawyer is that you do kind of internalize this idea that everything you write could sort of end up in unfriendly hands, and so we do ideally tend to hesitate a little bit more. Now I'm sure somebody's going to point out the 8 emails I sent in the last week that I shouldn't have sent. But
that Christmas card you sent me.
That's right. That Christmas card was rough. But I think we all ought to be more like lawyers in kind of how we do that. You know, just like with social media, everything's public these days. You know, every business email you send is also public. So
I gotta add,
we're about done.
and in business, everything you do in a fit of anger, almost the universal rule is gonna be stupid. So if you're mad because your partner did something or a customer did something, and you're gonna sit down and fire off a barrage, don't do it. Give it 24 hours. It's gonna be stupid.
And then don't do it.
Yeah.
And then don't do it. Exactly
Send it
right.
to your lawyer then. That's what you really need to send it to somebody. That's fine.
The other thing is, if you're sitting here and you've got a marriage that's been going downhill for 20 years and falling apart, don't bother to call these guys. They don't specialize in that.
No.
They specialize in other things. But do use a lawyer when you're dealing with business. Do use an accountant. Don't be your own expert. It's the worst mistake you can make.
We're kind of done. This is our.
Hope you all got
but-
your hand up.
question,
There's
but-
another
but
question.
we're here.
You were talking about if you're opening a company with just yourself.
Yeah.
It's okay to use
Yeah.
legal Zoom or whatever.
Generally, yeah.
Generally. But if you're opening a company potentially with other employees.
Yeah.
Then obviously elicit some more.
I meant,
legal issues.
yeah, I mean, not, if you're going to have employees, that is people that are working for you, then the formation documents of the company are still,
Much more complex.
no, they're not more complex because it's still just you making all the calls.
It's more like if you're sharing an ownership.
I'll tell you, if you
interest or
have if you have multiple owners of the company.
Oh, okay.
If
Because
you go into a partnership, think of it like getting married. The same reason you don't want to marry an asshole, you don't want to go in a partnership with an asshole.
And yet I became Mike's partner somehow.
What? That's my words.
You made an exception. Start companies and then they grow.
Yeah,
So if you start out with just you and you have like a really basic,
yep.
you know, online legal.
You can always amend, you can always amend the company's formational documents. And it's just basically, again, once you have other people involved, you probably want somebody to kind of figure out, again, who's making the calls, who's deciding what, and we do a little bit of that. There are people that do this who are cheaper than us, who do this kind of all the time,
Yeah.
setting up companies, and they know the questions to ask.
Yeah, and it's just another, it's hard. Say you want to form a partnership with someone you're very close with, right? It's a little awkward to say, like, look, I need to we should probably talk to someone independently to make sure this document is protecting both of us, because you just don't know. You can't predict. And
Right.
often enough, the nastiest litigation on these business incorporations is between people who were close, and
Yeah.
things happen.
But they wrote
Yeah,
it
yeah.
right. They wrote it down on a napkin, and it's 50-50. We both get to make decisions.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what if you disagree? What if somebody wants to leave? What if
So apparently business relationships, in partnerships last percentage-wise as often as wedding marriages. So that means you're going into a business with someone in, something, but it's not a marriage, so there's not all that other stuff, right? It's different. Gotta be very eyes open, yeah, sorry guys.
So transitioning from something that's like just you, and then you grow and
Yep.
expand, and you start having employees,
Yep.
and maybe you get some co-owners.
Yep.
Is that easily translated over to, like, if I bring you my, ABC legal Zoom
Sure, yep.
contract, and then now I need something.
Well, you just
It's
amend
not-
it and do a new
It's
one.
not like I want to envision the future and plan for when I have 50 employees.
No, you don't need it. There's no need to gold plate things, right? There's no, and the danger is that if you have an agreement, you're just too lazy to kind of get a new one because you already have one. That's the so long as you actually make it grow as you grow, it's fine. But again, as somebody who's been accused of being lazy himself, you got something, maybe I'll do it next Tuesday, maybe I'll do it a month from Tuesday, maybe then I kind of forget and I'll never do it.
Okay, we're gonna move on to one more. Thank you very much, guys.